Hello everyone, once again this is G, and today I want to show you this endgame contraption. Here we have the Methane Maker 5 million. This machine replicates methane using the same principles as the oil replicator. You get 2.5 kilos of methane per second, which is enough to run these here 28 gas generators. And you get about 20 kilowatts of net power once you subtract the pumps and stuff. After setting up the oil version in the factory, I started looking at what else can be replicated. This behavior only seems to work for low viscosity fluids, so things like magma and molten metals don't work because they don't flow very well. I'll put a list and description below of all the liquids which work for me so far. But anyways, let's get back to methane. And let me zoom in here. And also, let me just pull up a little overlay here. What you'll see here are two liquids. The bottom liquid is the one that's being replicated, and the top liquid is used as sort of a spring. And in this case, we're making methane, which is the bottom liquid here. And the top liquid used as a spring is liquid oxygen. And what do I mean by a spring? If you pour into this tile over here anywhere between 40 and 70 grams of liquid oxygen, same thing over here, and there's a tile on the side here, and there's another liquid on the bottom, then this liquid oxygen will naturally spill over some of it into the adjacent tile. And let's say if we pour 60 grams of liquid oxygen here, then 15 grams will spill over to the side, and the remainder 45 grams will sit here. However, as part of this process, when methane comes in, it will push some of this liquid oxygen back into a single tile, compressing it into 60 grams once again. But as soon as the methane falls back down, oxygen will spill back, and this will just continue indefinitely. And what happens in this particular behavior that we're exploiting here is 10 kilos of methane first comes out, and it happens pretty quickly. Sometimes, yeah, there it is. It's hard to see sometimes. Okay, so you can see here we have 1,250 grams of methane on each side. That's 2.5 kilos in total. That's the liquid that gets created after 10 kilos has come out. That's the behavior we're exploiting. This is the liquid that gets created. It's entirely new. And when it gets created, it pushes liquid oxygen off to the side, compressing it back into 60 grams. But if this is freed up, then oxygen will naturally want to spill back over one tile, but no more than one tile. And this tile over here remains as a vacuum. That's important. The other thing that's important is below this vent over here that's in a vacuum, you need to have a mesh tile. And this mesh tile, there's a known behavior where if drips pass through a mesh tile, they turn into a solid or liquid tile, and that's something that we need as part of this. We have to have these drips create a tile, which then triggers this behavior of these extra 2 tiles of liquid being generated. Now, in our case here, we're making liquid methane at cryo temperatures. You can see here the temperature is 184 below 0 Celsius. Same thing here for oxygen. And all of this is being maintained by the super coolant that's sitting here at minus 185. Here I can take the temperature overlay. You can see here, everything is extremely cold. This is very important because this setup is very temperamental unless you get the temperature just perfect. If you have it at minus 184 or minus 185 C, this works 100% with no problems. But if you exceed it too much, the oxygen is going to boil off, or if you drop it too much, the methane is going to freeze. So you have to get it just right. And to do that, you have to flush everything here with pre-cooled supercoolant. And you pre-chill everything here to minus 185 or minus 184. And once you've done that, you can then go ahead and pre-fill this with some liquid methane that you've made previously using supercoolant and whatnot. And once you pre-filled it with methane, then you go ahead and drip liquid oxygen in here. And in this case, I use these meter valves that I set at 0.06 kilos or 60 grams. And the nice thing about the meter valves is once they drip 60 grams in this case, they stop automatically. So you don't have to worry about like slicing the pipe or trying to time it just right. You don't have to worry about any of it. This just takes the guesswork out of it. But you have to drip liquid oxygen in here. You can't just put oxygen gas and then try to like cool it down using supercoolant. If you try that, it's going to freeze the methane because oxygen does not actually liquefy from a gas unless it drops to like minus 187, minus 188. And at that point, you're going to freeze the methane. But anyway, once you have this running, this will generate 2.5 kilos of methane continuously. And I've put a liquid valve over here just to kind of have it as a continuous flow. And once you produce liquid methane over here, it just feeds down into this chamber over here, which then gasifies it into natural gas, and these pumps then feed it into these natural gas generators. I've also added some gas valves over here. That's not really necessary, but you can add that in. And then we have this thermoregulator over here, which is cooling this super coolant. And it runs very occasionally. You can see here, hardly ever runs, but this loop continues to circulate. And here we have the natural gas feeding in. And the CO2 is not really being taken away. It just gets dumped back into this chamber. But this chamber is so cold that you have carbon dioxide just liquefying here. And then polluted water also turns into polluted ice, and it gets taken away on a timer. And it actually passes through a conveyor over here, and then gets dumped over here. And we're using this conveyor to actually use this polluted ice to preheat, kind of to warm up and take some of the chill away from this methane, if you will. And it helps to warm it up, turn it into natural gas. And then polluted ice just gets dropped down into here, and you can use it for whatever you want, cooling things, etc. And over here, polluted water is just dripping overboard. And if you look at the temperature gradient, it's pretty cool in here, but it's the coldest over here, and in this corner it's warmest. And so you're going to have polluted water not turning into ice over here, and instead it's just making its way into this infinite storage. Here's a bonus item. We have polluted water over here being replicated, but it also off-gases. So it's an important thing to note here is you want to try to keep this as a vacuum. It at least needs to be able to become a vacuum. And for that, you need to have polluted oxygen go somewhere. So we have a tile over here, and when a liquid comes out of here, it's able to push this polluted oxygen. At any rate, that's all I have for you today. This has been Greasy Hammer, and if you like this video, then smash that like button and subscribe to see more. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.